There are moments in history when accumulated convictions meet something they cannot categorize. Tupelo, Mississippi. September 1941. East Tupelo Consolidated School sits low and weathered against the clay soil, its pine boards warped by humidity and decades of delta heat. Inside Room 7, Mrs. J.C. Grimes, 34 years of teaching experience, a veteran of the county choir system, a woman whose judgment has shaped 3 generations of Mississippi children, delivers her verdict. The child cannot carry a tune. She says it not with cruelty, but with the tired certainty of someone who has heard 10,000 voices and knows, with the precision that only experience provides, which ones contain promise and which do not. The child in question stands 4 feet tall, white blonde hair, second-hand clothes that hang loose at the shoulders. He won't meet her eyes. When asked to sing for the class music demonstration, he had gone completely still, not defiant but unreachable, sealed behind a quality of silence that Mrs. Grimes mistakes for incapacity. She marks him absent from the school music program, a reasonable decision, an efficient decision, a decision that will haunt her for the rest of her life. Because within 3 minutes, Mrs. Olta Grimes, the principal's wife, visiting that day to observe the new students, will do something that transforms educational humiliation into testimony. And the accumulated experience of Mrs. J.C. Grimes will undergo what witnesses would later describe as rapid involuntary education. The moment when your existing framework can no longer accommodate what you are seeing. To understand what happened next, you need to feel the physical architecture of that moment. Room 7, East Tupelo Consolidated School, sits on the 2nd floor. September in Mississippi means the heat hasn't broken. The windows are open, but there's no cross breeze, just thick pressurized air that smells of pine resin and chalk dust and the sweet rot of magnolia blossoms dying in the heat. 23 students sit at desks scarred with 30 years of carved initials. The floorboards creak. Every sound in this room is exposed, amplified, unavoidable. Elvis Aaron Presley, age 6, stands at the front. His shoes are borrowed from a church donation box, brown leather, 2 sizes too large, the soles worn smooth. His shirt is clean but faded, washed so many times the cotton has gone soft and thin. His mother, Gladys, had pressed it that morning with an iron heated on the wood stove, and the crease lines are still visible on his shoulders. The physical cost of this moment is not visible to Mrs. J.C. Grimes, but it is absolute. Elvis had not eaten breakfast. The Presley family lives in a 2-room shotgun house on Old Saltillo Road, no electricity, no running water, a privy in the back. His father, Vernon, is working day labor when he can find it. The white-knuckled grip of poverty is not metaphorical here. It is the reason Elvis will not sing. Because singing in the Presley household is not performance. It is prayer. It is the sound his mother makes while washing clothes in a zinc tub. It is the hymns at the First Assembly of God Church, where the congregation sways and weeps and speaks in tongues. Singing is the most private, most sacred thing he knows. And Mrs. J.C. Grimes is asking him to do it in front of strangers, on command, for evaluation. He goes silent, not shy silent. There is a difference. Shyness seeks approval. Silence protects something that cannot yet be explained. Mrs. Grimes mistakes the map for the territory. She sees a poor child who lacks training. What she cannot see is the total presence behind his closed expression, the way he is listening to something she cannot hear. Mrs. Olta Grimes is not looking for miracles that day. She is 41 years old, married to the school principal, a former music teacher herself who now volunteers to assess students the regular teachers have already categorized. She carries a worn leather notebook where she records observations in meticulous script. She has seen this scene before. The child from the poor family, marked early as deficient, consigned to the back row. When Mrs. J.C. Grimes explains that the Presley boy cannot sing, Olta feels the small, familiar weight of an internal sigh. Another child lost to a self-fulfilling prophecy. Another voice that will never be tested because someone decided, with the best intentions, that testing would be cruel. She watches Elvis standing at the front of the room. He is motionless in a way that children usually are not. No fidgeting, no glancing toward the door, just a quality of patience that seems strange in someone so young. His hands hang at his sides. His breathing is shallow and controlled. Olta Grimes makes a decision that will alter the course of American music. "May I try something?" she asks Mrs. J.C. Grimes. The teacher nods, already gathering papers, already moving on. Olta approaches Elvis. She kneels, actually kneels, so that her eyes are level with his. This physical detail matters. It removes the architecture of authority. It makes the moment lateral, human. "Do you sing at home?" she asks quietly. Elvis nods, once, barely perceptible. "Do you sing at church?" Another nod. Would you feel more comfortable singing something you already know? Something you don't have to learn right now? For the first time, Elvis meets her eyes. And Olta Grimes sees something she will spend the rest of her life trying to describe. A quality of attention so complete it makes the air feel different. Like standing near something electric before it activates. "What if I told you," she says, "you don't have to sing for the class? What if you just sang for me? What if everyone else just happened to be here?" It is a subtle reframing, but it changes everything. Elvis's shoulders drop half an inch. Not relaxation, permission. Permission to stop performing and start testifying. This is where the story pivots on silence. Mrs. J.C. Grimes is standing near the windows, half turned away, her accumulated experience still broadcasting its verdict. The students are restless, expecting nothing. The room has the low, scattered energy of a moment everyone believes is already over. Elvis does not argue. He does not plead. He simply stands in the complete quiet, giving nothing away. Olta Grimes stands and moves to the corner of the room. She does not prompt him. She does not count him in. She simply waits, holding a quality of attention that signals, "I am ready when you are." What happens next takes 10 seconds, but those 10 seconds contain everything. Elvis closes his eyes. His breathing changes, deepens, drops into his chest. His hands, which had been loose at his sides, tighten briefly into fists and then release. He is not preparing to sing. He is preparing to become the singing. There is a difference, and everyone in the room feels it without understanding why. When he opens his eyes, they are focused on the far wall, on a point nobody else can see. And then he begins. The song he chooses is Old Shep. It is a ballad about a boy and his dog. Simple melody. Written by Red Foley, it tells the story of a childhood companion growing old, the faithful dog who saves the boy from drowning, and the unbearable moment when the dog must be put down. It is sentimental. It is rural. It is the kind of song you hear on scratchy radio broadcasts late at night when the signal drifts in from Memphis or Shreveport. Elvis sings it a cappella. No piano, no pitch pipe, just his voice unaccompanied in a room with no acoustic mercy. The first note is thin, a child's voice, no power behind it. Mrs. J.C. Grimes almost turns away. But then the second phrase arrives and something impossible happens. The voice doesn't get louder, it gets truer. He is not performing the song. He is remembering it, living it, pulling it up from some private well of loss that a 6-year-old should not yet possess. But Elvis Presley, who will lose his twin brother Jesse at birth, who will grow up in a house saturated with grief his parents never name, already understands something about absence. His voice cracks on the line. Old Shep, he has gone where the good doggies go. It is not a technical crack. It is a human crack. The instability becomes tension, and the tension makes the resolution, when his voice steadies on the next line, feel inevitable, earned, true. Olta Grimes, standing in the corner, feels her throat close. Mrs. J.C. Grimes, near the window, goes completely still. The students who had been shuffling and whispering stop. not because they are told to, because the room forgets how to breathe. Elvis is not singing to them. He is singing past them, to some point beyond the walls, beyond Tupelo, beyond 1941. He is singing the way people sing at funerals, not to entertain but to testify, to make the invisible visible. He transforms the sentimental into the sacred. When he reaches the final verse, "I wish that I could journey to that land up above, to that beautiful place where he waits at the door," his voice thins to nearly nothing, but it does not waver. He holds the last note not with strength but with total presence, and the silence that follows is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of awe. For 5 full seconds, no one moves. Then Olta Grimes begins to cry. Not polite tears, not teacher tears, the kind of crying that comes when your map of the world is suddenly inadequate, when what you assumed and what you know are revealed to be two different countries. Mrs. J.C. Grimes stands frozen. Her face is pale. She is experiencing what her colleague will later describe as rapid involuntary education. The moment when 34 years of accumulated convictions encounter something they cannot accommodate, and the convictions lose. Mrs. Olta Grimes kept that leather notebook for the rest of her life. In 1977, 2 months after Elvis Presley died at Graceland, a reporter from the Tupelo Daily Journal interviewed her. She was 77 years old. She had taught music to hundreds of students. She had lived through the Depression, the war, the entire sweep of the 20th century. But when asked about her most significant moment as an educator, she did not hesitate. "It was the day I learned the difference," she said, "between what I knew and what I assumed." She described Elvis at age 6 with the precision of someone recounting a vision. The borrowed shoes, the thin shirt, the quality of silence before he sang, and then the singing itself, how it bypassed every technical framework she possessed and went directly to the truth. "He didn't wait for permission," she said. "That's what I've spent 30 years trying to teach, and he already knew it at 6 years old. Genius doesn't wait for permission, it just arrives." Mrs. J.C. Grimes, the teacher who had delivered the original verdict, retired in 1955. She never spoke publicly about that day, but former students reported that in her final years of teaching, she changed her method. She stopped categorizing children as musical or not musical in the first week. She started asking them what they sang at home, what they sang when no one was listening. She had learned at great cost that talent is not always legible to experience. Sometimes the map is not the territory. Sometimes a 6-year-old boy in borrowed shoes, standing in front of a room that has already written him off, knows something that 34 years of teaching has not yet revealed. East Tupelo Consolidated School still stands, though it is now a museum. Room 7 has been preserved. You can visit it. You can stand where Elvis stood. And if you are quiet, if you allow the silence to sit, if you stop performing and start listening, you can almost hear it. Not the echo of what happened, the truth of what continues to happen, every time someone decides that the verdict of experience is not the final word. Every time someone kneels to make the moment lateral. Every time genius refuses to wait for permission. The song Elvis sang that day in 1941 was not recorded. There is no audio, no proof in the forensic sense, but 63 witnesses carried it with them for the rest of their lives. They told their children. Their children told theirs. Productive tension becomes resolution. Instability becomes truth. And a 6-year-old boy refusing to sing until the conditions are human rather than evaluative teaches an entire room that the difference between silence and inability is the quality of attention you bring to the listening. Mrs. Olta Grimes died in 1984. In her will, she left the leather notebook to the Elvis Presley Museum in Tupelo. On the page dated September 1941, in her meticulous script, she had written just 5 words. He already knew the hymns. Not he learned them. Not he performed them. He already knew them. Because genius doesn't arrive through training. It arrives through recognition, through someone willing to kneel to ask, to create a space where the private truth can become public testimony. The rest, as they say, is history. But history is the wrong word. What happened in room 7 that day was not history. It was prophecy. And prophecy, unlike history, does not wait for the world to be ready. It simply opens its mouth and sings.